Hi guys, it's Ellen Brock, freelance editor. We've been talking about scene structure this week. Yesterday I talked about how the character needs to be proactive in a scene, and today I'm going to talk about the consequence or the effect of the scene. Now that we know the basics of how to construct a scene, it's important to have an idea of how scenes can be strung together to create a strong plot and to pull the reader through the story so that they don't lose interest. And creating a chain reaction is the best way that you can do that. When a scene has a consequence, it means that it changes something about how the story will move forward. The character now has a different direction or has a new goal, and it changes something from the beginning of the scene to the end of the scene. If you have a scene that does not change anything about the story, that's when the reader is going to get bored, and it's when the scene is going to feel irrelevant. There are lots of ways you can create this consequence or this chain reaction. I'm going to go over a few types of consequences that scenes might have so that you can get a better idea of how that will play out in your novel. So one possible consequence is that the character obtains new information. If you have a character who wants to be famous and they learn that there's this big talent competition that's being held and they could audition for it, that new information is going to create a new goal. It changes something about the story. Before the scene, the character did not know this information, and after the scene, the character now has a new information that they can use to move forward in a different way. The character could also witness or experience something that causes them to change their mind about something. So, for example, you could have a character who is confiding in their best friend is helping them to solve a problem that they have, and then in one scene they overhear the best friend sort of whispering and telling secrets over the phone. And in that scene, the character gains this new information that changes their perception of their friend, and then perhaps going forward, they no longer put their trust in this friend and they no longer use the friend's assistance. That's a consequence of that scene. Before, the character trusted the friend. Now the character has witnessed something, and the result is that the character's changed their mind about this person and is going to move forward without them. The character could also obtain an item that they need. If you have a character who needs a key to open a secret door, in a scene where they get the key, getting that key is a consequence of the scene that allows them to move forward and open the door, which they couldn't do before. The scene might also lead the character into a new obstacle or new conflict. For example, if you have a character who's being chased by monsters, and they fall into a hole, now they're trapped in a hole. The consequence of that scene is that they went from not being trapped in the hole to being trapped in the hole. So now what the character has to confront and what they have to do has changed. So those are some ideas of ways that you could create consequences to your scenes. It's important to keep in mind that the consequence of the scene does not have to be related to the character's goal. The main character may have been trying to do something completely different from what actually ended up being the effect or the consequence of the scene. For example, the character I mentioned earlier who overheard the best friend whispering, maybe that character was hiding under the bleachers to get away from a bully, and the goal was to get away from the bully. The consequence of the scene was that the character overheard this conversation, but that consequence is indirectly related to the actual goal of the scene. It's not actually what the character was trying to achieve. So when you're looking at your scenes, it's best to ask yourself, what is the consequence of this scene, or how does this scene change the story? What changed from before the scene occurred to after the scene occurred? If you can't come up with any kind of change, that's a good sign that that scene is not working and it's not supporting your novel, and it's going to feel irrelevant and it's not going to pull the reader through the story. So I really hope this video gave you a better idea of how to use consequences to create really strong chain reactions in exciting novels. Next week, I'm going to be hosting a Q&A session. I'm going to do 4 request videos Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday, I'm going to do a long Q&A session, sort of more casual than my other videos. So if you have any questions for the Q&A, post them in the comment section. I'll be choosing a good amount of questions to answer on Friday. So I hope that you guys will let me know what kind of videos you want to see. Going forward, I'll continue to use your suggestions as much as possible to create new videos that hopefully will help you guys improve your novels.